The orbital headquarters of Earth gleamed like a jewel in the darkness of space. Massive observation windows framed a panorama of the swirling blue planet below, while the sleek corridors hummed with the quiet energy of advanced technology. Tonight, it was hosting the Grand Interstellar Summit, a gathering of countless species from across the galaxy. Some floated, some walked, some shimmered with forms that humans could barely comprehend. But all eyes, at least for a moment, were on the humans themselves. Morgan Hale, CEO of Hale Enterprises, stood near the center of the Grand Hall, surveying the scene. He had spent years building his reputation not just as a business leader, but as a cultural diplomat. Humanity, still young among the stars, had much to prove. And tonight, with alien dignitaries and traders mingling freely with humans, Morgan felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. Every smile, every handshake, every small conversation mattered. It wasn't just about business. It was about showing the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. The hall buzzed with polite conversation. Aliens exchanged phrases that seemed like music or static, some speaking in ways that twisted and shimmered with light. Humans, wearing specially designed translation implants, responded in fluent galactic standard, their words careful, precise, and measured. Waiters moved among the guests, carrying trays of food so intricate it looked more like art than sustenance. Colors glowed softly, scents wafted in delicate waves, and every dish was designed to impress even the most alien of palates. And then she appeared. No one noticed her at first. She wasn't particularly tall, nor did she glow with any dramatic energy signature. Her hair shimmered with faint hints of color that seemed to shift depending on the light. Her skin was smooth, slightly iridescent, and her eyes were what made people pause. They were large, round, and impossibly bright, reflecting curiosity and intelligence in equal measure. She moved with a casual grace, as if she owned neither the room nor the attention it offered, yet somehow drew both without effort. Morgan saw her immediately. He straightened his posture, adjusting his tie, though he knew she couldn't possibly care. He had seen countless aliens, some magnificent, some terrifying, and yet in her presence he felt an odd tug at his nerves. She was here for a reason, but what that reason was he couldn't guess. She approached one of the floating food stations where tiny, intricate dishes hovered before waiting guests. A delicate hand reached out, picking up a small plate without hesitation. She tasted the first item, a simple-looking sphere of earthy colors. She paused, chewed, and then smiled faintly. "I'm only here to eat," she said. Her voice was soft, melodic, and strangely compelling. The words made it around the room instantly, carried by translators that rendered them in perfect human tones. The room fell silent for a brief moment. Laughter rippled, awkward at first, then polite. Some humans whispered, others nudged their companions, and a few aliens tilted their heads in confusion. It was not often that an alien visitor declared their intentions with such simplicity. Morgan froze. "Only to eat," he murmured to himself, brow furrowed. He stepped forward, hand extended. "Welcome," he said. "I'm Morgan Hale. We're honored to have you here." His tone was careful, controlled, but the curiosity in his mind burned bright. The alien girl tilted her head, regarding him with wide, observant eyes. "Morgan Hale," she repeated as if testing the sound. "I like it." Her smile widened slightly. "Your food, it is remarkable." She tasted a small plate of spiced vegetables, then a cube of protein synthesized from human-grown cells, and finally, a delicate dessert made from ingredients sourced from every continent. Each time she nodded, sometimes with a slight hum of approval, sometimes with a contemplative pause. Human guests watched, impressed by her apparent delight. Aliens around her exchanged quiet remarks, their words soft, almost musical. Morgan followed her movements, feeling a mix of pride and anxiety. "Is she evaluating us, or is she just hungry?" he wondered. A waiter approached, carrying a tray of shimmering drinks. "Would you like something to drink?" he asked. "Yes," she said simply. She glanced at the variety and selected one that glowed faintly green. She sipped delicately, then set the glass down, eyes scanning the room again. "Interesting," she murmured. "Your creatures here very active, very curious." The CEO decided to engage her further. "What brings you to Earth's summit?" he asked. He forced a casual tone, but inside his mind raced. Any misstep could offend. Any wrong impression could make humans seem weak or foolish. "I told you," she replied, voice calm, almost teasing. "I'm here to eat." "Well, in that case, we have more than enough for you. But perhaps you would like a tour, or to see how we prepare these meals. It's a long process." Along the way, she asked questions, questions he had never thought anyone would ask. How did humans grow protein efficiently? How did they prevent food from spoiling in zero gravity? How did they balance nutrition across millions of mouths? Morgan found himself answering each one, proud yet cautious. It takes years of research, he said, explaining innovations humans had developed in sustainability, nutrition, and flavor. We adapt quickly. When resources are scarce, we find solutions. Are you testing us? He tried to sound casual, but the question lingered in the air. She paused, considering. Perhaps, she said, but only in ways that matter. I observe, I taste, I think. Survival-minded. He led her toward the main observation deck, where Earth sprawled beneath them, oceans and continents glowing in the sunlight reflected off the atmosphere. The alien girl leaned against the railing, eyes tracing coastlines, forests, and cities. Your world, she said, almost whispering, is beautiful, but fragile, yet your species persistent. Interesting combination. Other delegates continued their interactions, oblivious to the subtle tension between the human CEO and the tiny alien girl who claimed she was only here to eat. Morgan realized something important. This was no ordinary visit. Every gesture, every taste, every word she spoke could be a clue, a test, or an evaluation, and the stakes were higher than he had imagined. Humanity was still new to the galactic stage, and their reputation, their future, might hinge on how well they impressed this one small visitor. She returned to tasting food once more, picking at dishes, analyzing, murmuring to herself. Morgan watched, fascinated. Each movement was deliberate, thoughtful, and precise. She ate slowly, savoring flavors, textures, and scents, but always with purpose. It was no mindless consumption. She was observing, judging, and cataloging, though what she was measuring he could only guess. He remembered the words she had said. I'm only here to eat. Yet he now suspected that those words, so simple on the surface, hid a far deeper truth. The night stretched on. Guests mingled, laughed, and shared ideas, while the alien girl moved from table to table, tasting, observing, and occasionally speaking a quiet remark that made those nearby pause and consider. Morgan followed, explaining, answering, and subtly steering her toward dishes and displays that showcased human ingenuity. By the time the summit's gala began winding down, Morgan felt both exhausted and exhilarated. He had spent hours explaining, demonstrating, and answering questions, yet the alien girl seemed as curious as when she had first arrived. And though she continued to claim she was only here to eat, Morgan couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was being evaluated in ways he hadn't anticipated. As the final human dishes were served and the last guests began to leave, the girl looked up at Morgan and smiled. Tomorrow I will taste more, she said, and I will watch more. It will be interesting. Against hunger, against disaster, against circumstance, they had adapted, survived, and grown stronger. Perhaps this was just another challenge. Perhaps in this tiny, curious visitor they would discover a new measure of themselves. And as he watched her leave for the night, Morgan realized that the galaxy was vast, and humanity's place within it was still being written. One meal at a time, one observation at a time, they were proving something profound. That humans, young and fragile as they seemed, were resilient, clever, and capable of far more than anyone, human or alien, could imagine. The next morning, Earth's orbital headquarters hummed with activity, though the summit had officially ended the night before. The alien girl, Lyra, did not appear at first, giving Morgan the false comfort that perhaps she had left after tasting all the human food. But by mid-morning, she returned, moving with the same quiet confidence that had unsettled him the night before. She walked through the main atrium as if she belonged, her eyes scanning every display, every hologram, and every human around her. Scientists, engineers, and diplomats paused to watch her, whispering softly among themselves. There was something about her presence that demanded attention without asking for it. Morgan approached her carefully, keeping his voice calm. "Good morning," he said. "I see you are ready for more tasting. But today I wish to taste more than food." Now it seemed she intended to test something deeper, the very capabilities of humanity itself. He realized that this small alien girl, claiming to be there only to eat, might hold the key to how humans were perceived across the galaxy. He gestured for her to follow him. "Then you will see everything. We can start with the labs, the production areas, and then perhaps the simulation center. We like to test ourselves there." Every answer he gave was detailed and precise, revealing the ingenuity humans had developed over centuries. "They adapt quickly," she murmured. "Resourceful, clever, persistent. We survive and we improve." Interesting. We simulate crises, natural disasters, technological failures, even potential alien interactions. Humans work together to find solutions, often with little guidance. It shows how adaptable we can be. May I try? Observation is more important. Multiple crises occurred at once: a failing water filtration system, a structural breach in the orbital farm, and a sudden power outage in critical sections of the station. Humans moved with surprising calm, using both knowledge and creativity to resolve each problem. Lyra watched silently, her eyes wide with what seemed like admiration. They adapt under pressure. They are clever, resilient. They learn quickly, fascinating. As the simulations continued, Lyra asked more personal questions. Why do you push yourselves so hard? Why take risks when failure could be devastating? And yet you smile, you enjoy this challenge. Morgan noticed how Lyra observed everything in detail: the way humans communicated, the way they improvised, the way they encouraged each other. She did not interfere directly, but her presence seemed to push them to perform at their best. By late afternoon, they paused. Morgan was exhausted, but Lyra appeared as energized as ever. She walked to the observation window, looking at the distant planet below. Your species, she said softly, is young, yes, but you carry potential, remarkable potential. And you survive not just because of strength, but because of ingenuity, adaptability, and cooperation. I am impressed. Tomorrow, she said, I will taste more, not food this time, but ideas, methods, and decisions. I wish to see how your species grows under observation. Everywhere she went, she asked questions that made humans think differently about their own achievements. Sometimes she praised, other times she was silent, observing quietly. Morgan noticed that every praise was measured, precise, never casual. Every silence carried weight, as if she were recording, evaluating, and calculating. When the day finally ended, Morgan walked with her to a small observation deck overlooking the Earth. The sun was setting, painting the planet in shades of orange and gold. For a moment, all the tension and pressure of the day melted away. You have done well today, she said softly, almost to herself. Your species capable of more than I expected. I hope tomorrow will bring the same impression. And that makes you fascinating. He realized that the galaxy was watching, not just through her eyes, but in potential ripple effects of every choice humans made. Humanity's future in interstellar relations might hinge on these simple, yet profound interactions. And as he looked down at the planet below, Morgan felt a renewed determination. Humans were still young, still learning, still fragile in some ways. But they had spirit, ingenuity, and resilience. And as long as they held onto those traits, there was no challenge they could not face. The alien girl had arrived simply to eat. Yet her presence, her questions, and her observations were slowly revealing something far greater: that humanity, in all its flaws and triumphs, was ready to stake its claim among the stars. The next morning, the orbital headquarters seemed quieter than usual, though Morgan knew better. Quiet did not mean calm, it meant preparation. Today, the alien girl, Lyra, was scheduled to visit the advanced research labs. Morgan had briefed his team thoroughly, emphasizing caution, professionalism, and precision. Every experiment, every demonstration, every explanation could be observed, evaluated, and judged. Humanity's reputation, fragile yet proud, hung on the outcome. When Lyra arrived, she moved with the same unassuming grace as before. Her eyes scanned the hall, noting the smallest details: the arrangement of tools, the organization of data, the way humans communicated among themselves. Morgan approached, trying to conceal his mixture of pride and apprehension. Good morning, he said. We are ready to show you our latest projects. The impossible. A simple dinner, a casual taste of food, had transformed into a test of humanity's true capability. And he realized, with a surge of pride, that humans had never been stronger when faced with challenges. He led her into the main laboratory, a vast chamber filled with advanced machines, holographic projections, and experimental equipment. Scientists and engineers moved with precise coordination, monitoring data, adjusting controls, and testing new ideas. Lyra's eyes roamed the room, absorbing everything, noting the efficiency, the organization, the ingenuity displayed in every corner. Morgan introduced the first demonstration. We call this Project Genesis, he said. It is a prototype for self-sustaining habitats. Our goal is to create environments that can support life in conditions humans were never meant to endure. We simulate challenges, and humans find solutions to maintain life and balance within these habitats. Humanity had always thrived on ingenuity rather than raw power. From the earliest days on Earth, humans had survived by thinking, learning, and working together. He hoped Lyra would see that today. "Show her the problems," Morgan said to a senior engineer. The first scenario appeared on the holographic screen, a simulated planet with fluctuating energy levels. Life support systems were failing, crops were wilting, and shelter structures were crumbling. Scientists and engineers immediately began analyzing data, recalculating resource allocation, and adjusting environmental controls. Lyra observed silently, her expression unreadable. Morgan noticed that she was not just watching the humans, she was studying their thought processes, their decisions, and their interactions. Every choice mattered. Every collaboration, every innovation, every moment of calm under pressure contributed to her evaluation. Hours passed as scenarios grew increasingly complex. A sudden meteor shower threatened the habitat. A power surge risked contaminating water supplies. A structural failure endangered the inhabitants. Each time, the human team adapted, collaborated, and solved problems with efficiency and creativity. Lyra's eyes widened slightly each time a solution succeeded. She murmured observations under her breath, words Morgan could not fully interpret but which seemed like a mix of analysis and admiration. "You are remarkable," she said finally, her voice soft but steady. "Even under pressure, you remain inventive, cooperative, and resilient. You do not panic, you do not crumble, you find solutions." Humanity had faced countless challenges on Earth: natural disasters, technological failures, and social upheavals. And yet, through all of it, they had survived and thrived. Seeing this recognized by an alien visitor, one who could traverse galaxies and evaluate entire civilizations, was profoundly validating. Lyra continued to present more complex challenges, testing not only technical skill, but also moral judgment and strategic thinking. Humans were forced to make difficult choices, prioritize one life over another, allocate limited resources, and make predictions about unpredictable environments. Every decision was scrutinized, every action observed. Morgan watched as his team worked tirelessly, adjusting to new information, debating solutions, and implementing changes with precision. He realized that what Lyra was truly measuring was not skill alone, but the human spirit, the ability to learn, adapt, and persevere in the face of uncertainty. During a break, Morgan approached Lyra. "You have seen a lot today," he said. "Are we meeting your expectations?" "What does that mean?" Humanity, young and often underestimated, was being recognized for traits that had carried them through centuries of challenges. Yet he also sensed that this was only the beginning. Lyra's tests were far from over and the stakes were high. The afternoon brought a new type of challenge: ethical dilemmas. Lyra presented scenarios where resources were limited, and humans had to decide how to allocate them fairly. She asked questions about the consequences of their choices, probing their understanding of morality, empathy, and long-term thinking. Morgan observed as his team debated, negotiated, and compromised. Every decision was thoughtful, every argument measured. Lyra nodded occasionally, her expression thoughtful. "You consider consequences," she said finally. "You weigh outcomes, you care for others even when it is difficult. That is rare in the galaxy. Most species prioritize survival above all else. You balance survival with wisdom." They had survived countless challenges on Earth not just through ingenuity, but through empathy, cooperation, and foresight. And here in this orbital lab, those traits were being recognized by an alien observer. As the day drew to a close, Lyra stood by the observation window, looking down at the planet below. Morgan joined her, feeling a sense of anticipation. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "I will present the final challenge, the one that will show if your species is ready to be more than a curiosity, the one that will reveal if humanity can truly hold its place among the stars. For your sake and for the sake of your world." As he looked down at Earth, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity was young, fragile in some ways, yet capable of extraordinary achievements. They had survived famine, disease, wars, and disasters. They had created art, science, and technology that stretched beyond their planet. And now, in the presence of an alien evaluator, they were proving that their potential was limitless. Morgan realized that Lyra's visit was not just about tasting food or testing knowledge. It was about understanding the human spirit, the drive to survive, to innovate, and to endure against all odds. It was about recognizing that humans, despite their imperfections, were capable of greatness. He knew that the coming challenges would be difficult. Lyra's tests would push humanity to its limits, and failure was possible. But he also knew that humans had a unique ability to rise above adversity, to adapt, and to find solutions where none seemed possible. And as he watched the sun set over Earth, casting a golden glow across the continents and oceans, Morgan felt a deep sense of pride. Humanity was young, yes, but it was strong. It was clever, it was resilient, and whatever challenges the galaxy held, he knew that humans were ready to face them head-on. Lyra's visit had begun with a simple statement: "I'm only here to eat." But now Morgan understood that it was far more than that. It was a journey of observation, evaluation, and discovery. And humanity, in all its complexity, was proving itself worthy of a place among the stars. The following morning, the orbital headquarters buzzed with anticipation. Morgan Hale could feel it in the air, in the steady hum of the station's systems, and in the energy of the human staff preparing for Lyra's arrival. Today would be different. Today, she would test humanity not through observation alone, but through real-time challenges, problems they could not anticipate entirely, and situations where ingenuity and cooperation would determine success or failure. Lyra arrived with her usual quiet grace, her eyes scanning the hub of activity with sharp attention. She did not greet anyone immediately, as if the energy of the room itself needed to be assessed first. Morgan approached her, trying to keep his voice steady despite the tension that gripped him. "Good morning," he said. "Are you ready for today's challenge? You will show me action, creativity, and resilience. I will present obstacles. You will respond. I will taste the spirit of humanity." He led her to the central control chamber, a circular room lined with consoles, holographic displays, and monitoring systems. Scientists and engineers were already stationed at their posts, awaiting instructions. Morgan knew the scenarios could range from technical failures to ethical dilemmas, all designed to evaluate how humans reacted under pressure. "Your species is clever," Lyra said softly, almost to herself. "But intelligence alone will not be enough today. I wish to see initiative, adaptability, and courage." Lights flickered, alarms sounded, and the station's AI announced structural stress in multiple sectors. Morgan observed calmly, though his mind raced. Humans sprang into action immediately. Engineers coordinated to stabilize the shields, rerouting energy through secondary conduits. Scientists calculated the trajectory and impact zones, communicating with the AI to adjust internal conditions. Everyone moved with practiced efficiency, improvising solutions when standard protocols failed. Lyra watched silently, her expression inscrutable. Morgan noticed her eyes track every decision, every calculation, every small act of human initiative. She did not intervene, did not offer suggestions. She only observed. As the crisis unfolded, a secondary problem emerged. A containment breach in the orbital farm threatened to release toxic gases. Human operators reacted instantly, sealing affected areas and activating emergency filtration. "Interesting," Lyra murmured. "Your species does not panic. You prioritize, communicate, and act decisively. Most species would collapse under such simultaneous stress." Humans had faced disasters on Earth countless times: storms, earthquakes, technological failures, and had developed an instinct for organized, rapid response. Here, under an alien's watchful eyes, they were demonstrating the same qualities, on a scale far larger than any natural disaster on Earth. Hours passed as Lyra introduced more complex scenarios. A meteor fragment pierced a secondary hull, causing a decompression threat. Simultaneously, an AI monitoring system indicated an unexpected energy surge in the station's main reactor. Humans coordinated across teams, improvising repairs, reinforcing structural integrity, and recalculating power distribution to prevent catastrophe. Lyra observed each decision closely. Her head tilted slightly when humans opted for unconventional solutions, nodding subtly in recognition. Adaptable, creative, courageous, fascinating. Humans did not change their methods because of her presence, but her quiet, intense focus seemed to push them to perform at their best, to innovate, and to consider solutions they might not have attempted otherwise. During a brief pause between crises, Morgan approached her. "You seem impressed," he said carefully. Lyra turned to him, expression calm but serious. "Impressed does not capture it," she replied. "I am observing. Every action, every decision, every solution contributes to my understanding. Your species is unusual, rare, and capable of remarkable outcomes. Humanity was young, fragile in many ways, yet here, in a high-stakes test designed by a species with far more experience, they were showing their strength. Their ingenuity, cooperation, and courage were all visible, and it thrilled him to witness it. The next challenge pushed humans even further. Lyra simulated a sudden communication blackout, cutting off internal systems from the AI. Human operators had to rely entirely on intuition, training, and improvisation. They organized manual control teams, relayed information through personal networks, and adapted procedures to maintain station stability. Lyra's eyes brightened slightly as she observed. Resourceful, collaborative, you do not rely solely on technology. You rely on understanding, creativity, and teamwork. That is impressive. Oxygen levels dropped in a controlled sector, forcing quick thinking to prevent harm. Multiple crises overlapped, testing every human ability: analysis, problem-solving, leadership, and cooperation. Throughout it all, Lyra observed silently, occasionally making small notes in a holographic interface Morgan could not access. Her calm presence contrasted with the high-stakes chaos, yet Morgan felt it exerting a subtle pressure on his team, pushing them to excel beyond what they might have under ordinary circumstances. By mid-afternoon, the humans had stabilized every simulated crisis, often using solutions that were creative, unconventional, and remarkably effective. Morgan felt a deep pride. Humanity, in all its imperfection, had proven itself capable of extraordinary feats when challenged to its limits. Lyra finally spoke. Your species is resilient, intelligent, courageous. Not all survive under pressure, but humans, you adapt, you innovate, you endure. That is rare. Yet he knew this was not the end. Lyra had hinted that the final challenge would be more revealing, a test that would determine whether humanity could truly hold a place among the stars. As the final simulated crisis concluded, a complex scenario involving environmental collapse, structural damage, and life-threatening conditions, Morgan observed his team. They were tired but not broken. They were exhilarated, aware of their accomplishments, and ready for whatever came next. Lyra turned to him, her eyes shining. You have performed well, she said, but now I will reveal the ultimate test, one that will show not only skill but judgment, adaptability, and the spirit that defines your species. He had expected challenges, crises, and simulations, but her tone suggested something deeper, something that would reveal the true essence of humanity. She gestured toward a large display panel. This scenario, she said, is real. You will not be tested by simulation alone. You will face consequences, decisions, and outcomes that matter. Your choices will reflect the qualities I seek: creativity, adaptability, courage, and the will to survive. A distant sector of the station was experiencing unexpected structural stress. Life support systems were compromised, and critical experiments were at risk. Every human present understood the stakes. Failure was not an option. Morgan watched as his team worked seamlessly. Engineers coordinated repairs, scientists recalculated energy flows, and leaders organized communication networks. Humans improvised when standard procedures failed, relying on creativity, intuition, and collaboration to address every threat. Lyra observed silently, her eyes scanning every action. Your species, she murmured, does not rely on strength alone. You rely on ingenuity, cooperation, and understanding. That is rare. That is remarkable. Every system was repaired, every risk mitigated, and the station returned to normal function. Morgan felt a deep sense of pride. Humanity had faced real challenges, not simulations, and had responded with intelligence, courage, and resilience. Lyra finally spoke. You have done more than survive. You have adapted. You have innovated. You have endured. That is the essence of your species. That is why I came, to taste the spirit of humanity. What I sought, what I observed, and what your species has proven. Prepare, Morgan Hale. Humanity's place among the stars will soon be revealed. Humans were young, fragile, and imperfect, but they were ready for the galaxy, ready to face challenges, and ready to prove their worth. Lyra's presence had transformed a simple visit into a profound test of ingenuity, courage, and spirit. And humanity, in all its complexity, had risen to meet it, demonstrating that they were capable of far more than any observer, alien or human, could have imagined. The following day, the orbital headquarters seemed to hum with a quiet anticipation. Morgan Hale walked through the corridors, observing the humans around him. Scientists reviewed data, engineers checked systems, and administrators coordinated schedules. all with an energy that suggested they were aware something extraordinary was about to happen. Yet no one knew exactly what Lyra had planned. Even Morgan, who had spent the past days guiding her through demonstrations and crises, felt a strange tension, as though the entire galaxy held its breath. When Lyra arrived, she did so without fanfare. She walked into the central atrium, her presence commanding attention not by size or sound, but by the focus she radiated. Her eyes swept over the room, noting the readiness of humans, their coordination, and the energy of anticipation. Morgan approached her cautiously, aware that today would be the day she revealed her true purpose. "Good morning, Morgan Hale," she said, her voice calm and melodic. "Are you prepared? I have observed, I have tested, and I have tasted your ingenuity, resilience, and spirit. Now I will reveal what I have concluded." Humans below went about their tasks, unaware of the momentous revelation about to occur above. Morgan felt his pulse quicken. For days, he had wondered why Lyra, a seemingly small and curious visitor, had arrived claiming she was only there to eat. Now, standing beside her, he felt the weight of anticipation heavier than ever. "I came," Lyra began, her voice carrying a quiet authority, "with a simple intention. You see, many species across the galaxy I visit are impressive in one way or another. Some are strong, some intelligent, some resilient. But few possess the combination that I seek. And when I first arrived, I said I was only here to eat. A simple statement, yes. But in truth, my purpose was to measure more than taste. My purpose was to measure the essence of your species. I watched how humans interact, how they organize, how they think and act. But that was only the beginning. For a species to thrive among the stars, it must do more than survive. It must innovate, adapt, and endure. It must demonstrate creativity, courage, and cooperation under pressure. And that is what I have seen from humanity." "And have we met your expectations?" he asked. Lyra's eyes sparkled, and for the first time Morgan thought he saw a hint of emotion in her expression. "You have exceeded them. Humans are not the strongest, nor the fastest, nor the most technologically advanced, but you possess something far rarer. You are adaptable, you are clever, you are courageous. You learn from mistakes, cooperate under stress, and innovate when the solution is unclear. You endure, that is why I came. When I said I came only to eat, I meant it literally and metaphorically. I wish to taste the products of your ingenuity, the fruits of your creativity, and the essence of your spirit. Every solution, every idea, every act of courage I have observed has been a taste of your species' potential. And I am pleased to say, you have proven yourselves worthy. Humanity will now be invited to join interstellar collaboration not merely as participants, but as respected peers. Your contributions, your ingenuity, and your spirit will be valued. Your mistakes will be considered learning opportunities, and your successes celebrated. You will be known as a species capable of holding your own among the stars." This was more than he had ever dared hope. For centuries, humanity had struggled to establish itself beyond Earth. Conflicts, resource limitations, and the fragility of their technology had all suggested that humans were vulnerable. Yet here they were, recognized by a species far more experienced and capable than themselves. "You have observed humans in extraordinary circumstances," Morgan said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "And you find our species worthy. That is why I came. Not because of strength or numbers, but because of ingenuity, adaptability, and spirit. That is remarkable. Ready to contribute, ready to innovate, ready to endure. That is why I have come. That is why I observed, tested, and tasted." Each small act of ingenuity, every decision made under pressure, every moment of cooperation had contributed to this recognition. Humanity, despite its youth and fragility, had proven itself capable. Lyra's voice softened. "Tomorrow I will depart, but I leave not just with data, not just with records, but with a profound respect for your species. I have tasted your courage, your creativity, your adaptability, and your spirit. And I can say with certainty, humanity is extraordinary. It was observation, and observation does not lie. Humanity has proven itself. You may now take your place among civilizations that shape the galaxy." Her arrival had seemed simple. She had come to eat. But in truth, she had brought a challenge, a test, and ultimately a revelation of humanity's worth. Morgan turned to look at the humans around him. Scientists, engineers, administrators, they were all continuing their work, unaware of the full weight of what had just been revealed. Humanity had not only passed an extraordinary evaluation, they had proven that their ingenuity, courage, and adaptability were qualities worthy of the galaxy's respect. He realized that the challenge had been more than a test. It had been a mirror. Humanity had seen itself reflected in Lyra's observations, and what they saw was capable, resilient, and extraordinary. And for Morgan, the sense of pride was overwhelming. "Humanity," he whispered to himself, looking at Earth below, "we are ready." And what she had found was remarkable. A species that, young and imperfect though it was, possessed the creativity, courage, and resilience to endure, innovate, and thrive among the stars. Morgan knew that this recognition would echo far beyond the walls of the orbital headquarters. It would inspire generations, guide future decisions, and remind humans of their potential. The galaxy was vast and full of unknown challenges, but humanity had proven it could face them. Lyra's visit, simple in its beginning, had become a defining moment in human history. And as Morgan watched the stars beyond Earth, he felt a deep and abiding pride. Humanity had faced the test, shown its worth, and earned its place among the stars. And all because one small alien girl had arrived with a simple statement: "I'm only here to eat."